Well, we're continuing on in our One Another series, and today we're going to look at the topic of living in peace with one another. And we may think living in peace with one another just has to do with our relationships with each other, especially in regards to the church. But what we're going to see here today is our attitude and our actions towards the leadership of the church. It's what helps progress peace within the church. So join me in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 12 and 13. And we're going to see, first of all, here in 1 Thessalonians 5, verses 12 through 13, that a one another church lovingly respects their spiritual leaders, appreciate those who labor in the church. So 1 Thessalonians 5, verses 12 through 13, Paul says, "We ask you, brothers, to respect those who labor among you and are over you in the Lord, and admonish you, and esteem them very highly in love because of their work." Then he ends here by saying, "Be at peace among yourselves." So that phrase "among you" is referring again to the spiritual leader of the church, but not just those who have leadership by title only. This is referring to the service quality of spiritual leadership, to those who actually labor at it. The spiritual leaders who actually have their heart and soul in serving in the church have put forth a lot of effort. And this isn't necessarily talking about physical effort, but there is that as well. But this is talking about our mental and our spiritual effort as we put that into the church. The ministry, you are always on their heart and on their mind and prayers. So respect these folks. Paul says, oida, have an intimate appreciation for them, that is, value them. And then verse 13 adds, esteem them very highly or beyond measure, exceedingly. Esteem, have a high regard for them. Think rightly about them in the sphere or with the attitude of love. Why? Again, because of their hard work. In verse 12, because they admonish you. Now, admonish may sound negative here, but it's just referring to that they instruct you. They help build you up in the faith. They help you mature in your spiritual qualities. They make you more like Christ, and they care a lot about that. They want you to be more like Jesus. And there's one important aspect of spiritual leadership here. They are over you in the Lord. And the Lord means that they are accountable to God for the labor that they do to bring you up in Jesus Christ, for their service and leadership that they have over you. Over you literally means to go before you, though, to be ahead of, to guide, to direct, really to lead. And so we're going to see here finally, one another church remains in a state of peace, have a resolve to be a peacemaker. So the best way to respect and esteem your spiritual leadership is not just how you treat them, it's how you treat one another. One of the greatest roadblocks to spiritual maturity in the church as a whole is when people in the church do not get along with each other, when they refuse to resolve conflict, when they hold grudges, when they don't forgive. That is a burden on the spiritual leaders. But when there is harmony and unity, restoration and respect, the labor, the spiritual leadership brings forth fruit. So respecting spiritual leaders, remember, comes from peaceful relations with one another. If you really want to esteem and encourage the leaders in your church, then work at having peaceful relations with one another in the church. Well, thank you for joining me.